Hello and welcome to the second episode of our Melbourne Survivor 1 coverage. Last week we went into detail. Jules and I did a full deep dive of the season. We pulled together all the little tidbits and puzzle pieces of what we could find on the very short video that was on YouTube. I think we did a pretty good job of sussing out the history of the season. But today, thankfully, we are joined by the winner, Toby, the near perfect winner. And I'm very keen to get his insights on what actually happened on the day. I think he'll be able to provide a lot of great information for us as to what actually happened. Now, it was, I think, 5 years ago, and that is a long time, particularly when you don't have a lot of the detail of a substantive season to look over. But I'm sure he's going to provide a lot of great intel for us to really break down the season and his fantastic game. Just a little bit of housekeeping before I start the show. Next week, of course, we have the tea party with Annabelle of Melbourne Survivor and, of course, Traitors fame. She will be interviewing Kyle, Keegan, and Kath in what I'm sure will be a fun-filled episode, getting into the real hot goss and tea of Melbourne Survivor Season 1. Following that, the week after, I will be catching up with production as well as handing out the awards for this season. And on the awards, voting remains open. Go to the Survey Monkey, put the votes in for who you think was the best player of the season. And do not forget, in October, we'll be covering Backyard Season 1. So get binging and make sure you're all ready for our Backyard Season 1 coverage coming in October. Okay, so now on with today's show. As everyone knows, I'm not a winner. I'd love to be a winner. I have won orgs, but they don't really count unless you play orgs and then you think they count, but they don't really. So getting someone here to join me, know that feeling of what a winning game is like and the ins and outs, and to really get that in-depth analysis on that sort of game, I had to bring in someone. And who else could I bring in but two-time player and Canberra Survivor 2 winner, La Madrina herself, Ma. Welcome, Ma.
Hi, everyone. Hello. Hey, CK.
Hello. I'm just gonna adjust your little headline here. How have you been? Well, I just do this.
Okay, just working hard, playing some tennis with a fellow winner, John from Survivor Season 3. So, yeah, just some, the winners, we just hang out all the time.
So you got a secret club?
Yeah, secret club, and I'm sure we can talk all about the secret club today.
You're going to have to invite Toby to the club now.
Yeah, he is the president of the club. He's the first Melbourne winner, so yeah.
And near perfect, but we'll get into that. Oh, I'm too big, sorry. I'm just trying to make you a fancy little headline, but you've done too much that's making it me not be able to do it. How about this? Will this work? Nope, that's too many. Really? 50 characters?
Headline, you can just, yeah.
There you go. I've done it. A lot of acronyms in there. Melbourne Survivor 3, Playing with Fire. Canberra Survivor 2, The Ultimate Sacrifice. So without further ado, let me bring in Toby. I tracked him down. He wasn't that hard to find, even though he hasn't been part of the community for a little while, being Keegan's brother. And given how Keegan is involved in the community, I was able to track him down without too much interest. So without further ado, let me welcome Toby to the ORCA pod. Welcome.
Hi, thanks very much for having me.
Hi, Toby.
Hey, Ma, how are you?
We're so excited to have you. Now, did you remember that you played a near-perfect game? Did you remember that but for Kath's random vote, you would have actually had a perfect game?
Mate, it continues to haunt me to this very day.
And do you know why Kath? We obviously, we saw a good amount of the Final Tribal Council, and I'm not knocking Nathaniel's game. It was pretty solid, but obviously not up to the caliber of the game you played based on the thoughts of the rest of the jury. Why do you think Kath voted for Nathaniel?
Yeah, Kath was one of the few people that I didn't have a lot to do with during the game. Being a single day, sometimes you just don't have enough time to have conversations with everyone. So I tried very early on in the game to have a chat to her, and then from that point on, I reckon like she and Nathaniel played a lot closer together. So I just guess that behind the scenes there was a lot going on that I didn't know about between those two with their games, and I think that's what swung her in the end.
Well, you were on her tribe at the very start. It's just obviously you feel that she chose the person who she was a bit closer to. And I think, look, it's a valid point. John, the winner. I always had a weird issue with myself. I didn't vote for the winner of Playing with Fire, and I went after the game and I was like, why didn't I vote for John? Like, John goes, you wouldn't have watched this, Toby, because I know you haven't kept up, but he goes to every single tribal council and votes the right way at every single one bar one. And I'm a person who respects a game like that, and I didn't vote for him. I voted for more of a social player, which is not generally what I respect. And I'm like, why did I vote for this? And I was speaking to John about it, who works in sort of the psychological space and understands how people think. And he says to me, you voted for her because she made your game relevant and I didn't.
Yeah, I see that.
I played with her, I didn't play with him.
Yeah. And then you see like all their sneaky moves behind the scenes that maybe doesn't come out to everybody, but you know how they were playing, so it seems more relevant to you. Yeah.
Of course, yeah. And I do think a social bond is always gonna be stronger than a strategic, like admiring someone for the strategy. I do think people end up voting for who honestly they, like you said, connect to the most during the game. Is rare that someone just really votes based on strategy. I think you did such a good job at the final tribal council. You very humble, you owned up to your mistakes, answered, kissed the right amount of butt with, Cal's question especially. I think you were a very convincing winner.
Thank you.
Well, I want to expand on a bit of your final tribal council. You said that to the question of what was your best move, and your answers were, of course, Charlotte, which we do want to talk about, I think, in some detail in your relationship with Charlotte. But also you said Keegan's vote. Now, I speculated that was because he is your brother. You didn't seem to be working together too much from what we could see being on different starting tribes. But was it that you always thought you could possibly work with your brother, but voting him out was a big move for you in deciding your fate?
It's a really interesting one with my brother because I didn't know he was playing the game until the morning of. So he knew a couple of weeks ago that I was, because I got invited to very early on. And so I was happily talking about it quite openly about my game and how I was, so excited for it. And he never told me that he got invited because they were short on males. Mm-hmm. So when he was playing, I was really terrified.
You're terrified.
He knows half my game. I've been openly talking about it.
Yeah, you've been giving.
And now here he is, and he obviously hasn't told me that he's playing for a reason. So I was very nervous seeing that he was there. So there was always this level of, even though like we're siblings, we really can't trust each other to that point. Like, we're super competitive. It was like, you can trust for a while, but at one stage someone's going to come for the other, and it's like making sure you're the first person to make that move. Yeah, so like when I took him out, it was kind of like I could have played with him, because at that point I felt like he was coming to me because he was on the he didn't have the numbers, so he was sort of, look, I need help, that sort of thing. We interested in playing together, and we played the last two votes as if we were working together. So it was that point where I could like keep going with him, or I could like make a move and just get rid of him and not have to stress about my game being blown up anymore. And I sort of took that path.
Did he voted for you, but did he hold any grudges post game? Was he grumpy, or was he fine?
I think like when he got voted out, he knew it was coming. Look, I think he was probably a little salty the day after, but no, he was pretty happy that like one of us won. I think at the end, when he like looks back at it now, I'm sure he'd like secretly like it to be him, but yeah, overall I think he's okay.
So you come from a obviously like a Survivor family at this point, an LRG. So Keegan, both Keegan and Emily have played different games. Keegan more than anyone that I know of.
Yeah.
If there was a Blooded versus Water season, who would you do it with, Keegan or Emily?
Oh, that's a good challenge. They both have big reputations now in the space, I sort of feel. So like I feel if I did it with Keegan, he would actually make a bigger target. Maybe I could shield myself a little bit being a winner. Like I think that carries its own target on your back. So maybe I'd go in with him just because I think he might take some of the heat off me for a few rounds.
Okay, good answer.
I think that until this podcast series came up, you could have played a very strong under the radar game in a returnee season. Now, with me blathering on about the near perfect game for four weeks, I think that it's going to raise your profile slightly. But I do agree that a pairing with Keegan, everyone knows Keegan. He's played 3 times, and you know, this one we can't tell too closely, but on the other 2 seasons he played very different games in both of them. One was more villainous and one was more heroic. I think, and you can see that he's got multiple facets to a game he can bring out. So I think people would find him quite threatening if they would play with him.
Yeah, and like even if I was doing a Blood versus Water, I still find him quite threatening myself. Like,
so that's why you took him out. Fair enough. I like that. Now
I did, yeah.
The Charlotte move. She was devastated. She didn't see it coming. She was certain the 2 of you were going to the end. It was obviously the best move for you strategically, but was it difficult for you emotionally? Did you know Charlotte before the game, or was it just a bond build over the day?
Yes and no. Charlotte was one of the people that I hadn't met through like before the game. I think I knew 5 people on like different sort of levels, and I met someone once, and then it was obviously like my brother who I'd known all my life. So quite a few at range, but Charlotte was a completely new person. I'd never met her before the day, and we just sort of hit it off on the day. Like she was just out there and she was having fun, and I was like, yep, I reckon she's someone I can like. Between her and Kevin, they're out there personalities. They're safe to hide behind. Use them as shields. But in terms of like taking her at the end, like, yeah, I know strategically it was the best move, but it was certainly hard. Like, you think you don't make that strong a bond in like 12 hours, but like when you put trust in people, like you really do. Like, it's crazy how much you rely on people and trust in them. So like, I did feel a bit like of a horrible sort of person. Like she didn't see it coming at all, and I was like telling her the entire way through that it was just her and me, and I was doing exactly the same with Nathaniel. So like I was telling 2 different stories to 2 different people, and obviously someone was going to get cut at the end. So yeah, it was hard, but strategically I knew she was going to be a danger in that final travel.
Well, I want to speak to her about her some more and that alliance you built. Before I bring up Nathaniel, as you were asked about, you know, Kevin asked you at Final Tribal Council, why didn't you bring Nathaniel into your 4-person alliance with Charlotte, Kyle, yourself, and Kevin? And your response was that, you know, you wanted a guy on the side. You wanted a side piece that, you know, no one else had that could use your advantage. Ma sort of did a very similar thing in her game. She took out her side piece at Final Four. So she also took out her best alliance member, who was threatening to win the game at Final Four. So you have a lot in common there.
Nice.
Well, let's get your perspective from both of you, why that is so valuable to have that side piece that's not in your core alliance.
I mean, in my case, I feel like if you're not talking to the person, then someone else is. So I feel like, yeah, keeping I mean, you probably know this, Toby, keeping as many options open is really important. I think that's a mistake that a lot of like first-time players, I think, make, is like they kind of like are very grateful to be in an alliance, and they, you know, are loyal almost to a fault. Like, yeah.
And also just that point of like, Survivor changes so quickly on like a surprise twist or like double vote or something like that, and having that extra person who's got your back or you've got theirs to then regroup after something's fallen apart. If you're in alliance, you go from the majority to the minority really quickly. To have someone on the other side is like a lifesaver really in that sort of game. Yeah.
So how confident were you that you would win coming into like the final tribal, were you pretty confident, or did you have doubts that maybe Nathaniel or someone else could take it?
I felt personally like very confident in my game, as in like I was quite happy with how I'd played it, but also like just not knowing how the jury was going to view that, because I was involved in voting a lot of them out. So I was like, maybe they don't like that. Maybe they're looking for someone who's a bit of an underdog. And I certainly didn't have an underdog sort of story. I was in the majority for a lot of the time. And they didn't see me as the person running the game. So they really did look at Kevin and Charlotte as the people in charge running it, because they were people putting names out there supposedly to vote people out. And I felt like maybe they won't see that I actually was putting those names out as well.
Mhm.
So I was happy with how I played the game, but also just trying to convince people that I had more of a say than they probably thought when they were watching from the sidelines, was my worry of like whether I'd get the votes or not. Yeah.
Well, had you gone to the end with Charlotte, do you think she wins?
I would have loved to, like, alternate universe play that out, because I think that would be a cracking ending. I don't know how she would have pitched, what her story would have been to pitch. I think it would have been a very heroic, didn't know a lot about Survivor, came to have fun and play, and she was a big, big target. Like, everyone was gunning for her the entire time. And I'm just like, I think personally that I kept her in the game because I was making sure she didn't have enough votes go against her to take her out, because I wanted to keep her there as a shield. But whether other people would have seen that, I think she could well have won the game. Yeah. Yeah. She had a lot of friends on the jury.
Great. So,
No, you speak, Mark.
Oh, well, my question was more about your relationship, not only with Charlotte, but other people in the game. Obviously, Keegan is your brother, but have you stayed in touch with anyone? You know, it's been a few years, so do you ever see anyone who was there on the day?
That's a good question. So I'm good friends with Alicia outside of Survivor. So I've known her for like many, many years. So I still keep in touch with her. Nathaniel, like, we message occasionally, but we haven't caught up like for a long time since the game. Yeah, that's about all. So I haven't kept greatly in touch with everybody.
You did and we'll obviously just come back to the game, but you did have some involvement. If please correct me if I'm wrong, in the early production of Melbourne 2. I think there's some videos on YouTube about Melbourne 2 production, or seeking donations, or something that you were involved in. Were you involved much with Melbourne 2's production?
Yeah, so I was a cameraman for Melbourne 2 and helped with sort of like the planning stage of it beforehand. And then after that, I haven't been on the crew as much for any future seasons. Just with time constraints and stuff, I haven't been able to get down for like a weekend to help out. But yeah, definitely still heavily involved. Before Melbourne Survivor, I actually ran a couple of seasons of my own camp with friends. So I used to do a thing called Camp Survivor. So I knew the game pretty well, because I used to host it. Mm-hmm. So I was interested in jumping in and trying out how it actually go to play the game. And Mitchell I knew quite well because he played in one of my seasons, and he and I still message each other. Yeah.
Great.
I want to take you back through some of what I saw as some of the more pivotal votes in the game. Obviously, you've got a strong tribe up front. And you don't go to tribal council for the first two. How quickly did the 4-person alliance of yourself, Kevin, and Charlotte and Kyle form at the beginning of the game?
Yeah, it was an interesting one because we didn't go to tribal for the first two, like you said, the first two challenges, and literally we sat around talking. No one wanted to split up. No one wanted to go away for like the entire first like camp. And then the second camp was only when people were like starting to look for idols and stuff because they were bored that we actually started doing a bit of like strat talk. So I first just dropped a little thing to Nathaniel at that point, sort of said, top 2, interested? I said, leave it at that, have a think about it. I'll get back to me on that. And then it was only when we then were going to the tribal that we actually made that call for alliance. So we sort of had a talk about, who we're interested in working with. And then it sort of became real, we're going to tribal regardless of whether we win or lose, because it was the double. And that's when I was approached by Charlotte to become the fourth member of that group. So that she, Kevin, and Kyle had already made a 3, and they were looking for a majority of 5. So they sort of brought me in. And then we were having a chat up at the water spot, and Kath wandered up to see what we were talking about. So she just became number 5. We didn't all pick her, she picked us, and that became that core 5 for the first vote.
Except at the first vote, it was an amazing 4-4 tie.
No, it was a 3-3-2 tie.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so you guys split, did you?
Yeah. So the group of 5, we decided to split purely for the fact that we didn't want the other tribe to know that we had a strong alliance. So we wanted it to look like it was a messy sort of broken alliance, like groups. So like 3 of us voted for Lauren, 2 of us put votes on Carolee, and then the minority other 3, which was Nathaniel, Carolee, and Lauren, all put votes on Kath. So then we tied it up 3-3, and we knew that we could then close it out. And that was when Lauren went home. Yeah.
That's really interesting, and I like that strategy of not looking as cohesive as you were. Was there any blowback in you and Nathaniel voting differently, or was he fine with that post?
No, he was fine with that, only because we'd had a slight talk afterwards where he asked me again, you still keen on top 2? And I said yes. But we sort of explained, like, we're probably going to be on opposite alliances here, and it's like, I'll watch your back if you watch my back, sort of thing. So as long as I keep the votes off your name, you keep them off my name, you're going to lose members of your alliance or vice versa. And he was fine with that. So we agreed to that beforehand. So yeah, he knew he was going to be in a bit of a tricky spot to start until we got to merge.
I love it. That's some very, very solid strategy at that early point to really just set yourself up in so many different ways with your core alliance, with Nathaniel, with no one knowing about you and Nathaniel, which it seemed like most people didn't know about that. You voted differently. You got Kath there as well as another option. Amazing.
I have to say though, like, Kath, I could not read the entire game. Like, she was so hard to read. I reckon that's partly why we didn't work together, because I had no idea if she was like just completely like lying to my face or not. So I just had no clue. So I was like, yeah, okay. I don't know if I can trust her. Yeah. And then she got tribe swapped, of course. So we just didn't have time to work together.
Well, do you have anything more on that vote, Mar, that you want to talk about, or are you happy to move to the tribe swap?
No, I think it's interesting. The intentionally messy tribe strategy is like, I don't think I've ever heard of that. So it's a very interesting strategy.
The more I deep dive into this season, like we did last week, the more I wish the whole thing existed, because there's some fantastic strategy and interesting votes happening all throughout the game.
Yeah. I would love to have seen a full season. Obviously, makes sense why there wasn't, because it had to be done in 2 weeks to like get out for a party. But yeah, there was heaps that was going on, and I was like, trying to do it all in 12 hours was crazy. Yeah.
So we go to the swap, and Kyle floats that he had been encouraging your alliance, your tribe as well, to potentially throw a challenge if the numbers don't work out, which they don't. Kath and Kyle are a little bit in the minority at the new bundle, with Ian, Keegan, and Nicole as the other 3 there. We don't see what happens, but your tribe does lose. Was there a throw there?
The challenge was like throwing little hoops onto pegs, similar like ring toss, basically. Some from a long distance, some from a short distance. And I didn't even know Kyle suggested we drop the challenge. So like, it sounds fancy if we say, yeah, we did it for Kyle, but no, we just sucked at throwing.
In both sense of the word, yeah.
Yeah.
Couldn't throw.
Exactly right. Yeah. No, we didn't. And I think at that point, we didn't even sort of realize, like, it wasn't about keeping our lives safe or anything at that point. It was like we were in a majority on our tribe anyway, because only 2 people had sort of swapped. So we weren't too stressed one way or another. And it wasn't for me personally, they weren't the two people I was looking at to be my shields, so I wasn't too stressed either way who went to tribal.
And as you said to us, you'd actually been brought in as the fourth to a threesome of Kyle, Kevin, and Charlotte, and therefore seeing if Kyle went, it's not like the worst outcome for you, because then you can move up in the pecking order of that alliance.
Yeah, 100%. See, I knew that Kyle had hosted his own seasons as well in Backyard Survivor because I'd seen that season before it. I played this, so I was like, cautious of him as a player in the start because I thought he was playing himself, like playing his game down really low. So he and I, like, again, we had sort of this, let's get to merge and then see what happens after that sort of an alliance. But I wasn't too stressed if he went out there on the other tribe. Sorry, Kyle.
Well, no, and look, I think you've got to be worried as well about people that travel from interstate because they're serious. Particularly for a 12-hour game, they're super serious if they travel. I traveled interstate to play. Mars traveled interstate to play. It's a serious player that does that.
Yeah. No.
So you lose a challenge and you have a choice between Rosemary and Alicia. Did your pre-existing relationship with Alicia contribute to that decision, or was it a general tribe consensus for Rosemary to go?
It was more that Rosemary was selling herself as a bit of a super fan, talking about big moves, and she seemed to know the game better than Alicia did. So at that point, we were sort of like, I think she's probably more dangerous to keep around because she might pull numbers or something. And at that point, I was worried that Nathaniel and Carolee might team up with the two girls because they were in the minority and then make a majority. So I was sort of very careful to try and not let them all just stand around and have a chat and make that decision. So we sort of kept them split and we just sort of said, look, Rosemary knows more. So then the whole talk, I think you get like a tiny snippet of it maybe in the video, I can't remember, of me talking to Rosemary. I think I spent like 5 minutes having a really hard chat about it. That was purely so she didn't have any time to strategize with anybody else on the tribe.
I love the block strategy. Waste someone's time so they can't be doing anything else. It definitely works, particularly in a short form game. And I know when I've played orgs and like I got 30 minutes for tribal when like things are actually going to happen, I just spend a bunch of time. I'm always the person that ends up having to talk to the person we're voting out just to keep them occupied, and then they hate me even more because I'm the one who did that.
That's it. You promise them so many things and you sort of talk about how different strategy might work. Could do this or we could do that. Maybe what about this? And if we did, and you just waste their time for like, as much time as possible. And then, she had no time to make any sort of big moves. Yeah.
And thankfully she wasn't on the jury because I found the thing people hate the most is not the lying because it's part of the game. It's the additional lying where you're like, and after this vote, we could do this and this and this. And when they know that all of that was just absolute nonsense, they feel more, I think, aggrieved by the lying.
Yeah. She still hates me a bit for that move to this day. Like, if we ever played again, we're still good friends, like, because she's Liz's sister. But like that annoys her so much. We played a non-filmed version later on, and she voted me out of that purely for that reason, like because I got hurt. Didn't matter. We couldn't work together. We'll never work together in a season, I assure you. So,
well, we talked about that in the last episode when I was speaking with Jules, and because Mitch was talking about how he had voted out some of these people, and he hoped that they would like let that go. And I don't know if you can ever trust someone who actually not voted you out, because if you weren't in the same alliance or whatever, who cares? Like, this is the game. But if you were actually betrayed by someone, I don't know if you can ever trust them in the game the same way. What do you think, Ma?
It's tough. I think like it would be a really good strategy. I think if we were like talking about a really cold strategic game, then I think you can. But yeah, like you said, emotions come into it. I think there's some people in the community I think could do it. Me, I'm a very emotional player, so I'm not sure about that. But I
think probably haven't been betrayed by someone in that really like cutthroat blindside way.
Probably. I think Laurel came the closest for me, and I think I would. I did play Toby. I did play with one person that I played with John, who I met in Melbourne. We played Canberra together, and I think for me, it's more like I wouldn't, because I have a good relationship with the person. I feel like, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe you would feel, you play with Rosemary the second time, you would feel pretty guilty if you bought her out again. So I don't know if
Yeah.
you like, you know, were a bit nice. I think John definitely was very nice to me in Canberra, and I'm not sure if he could have voted me out. Yeah.
John
Yes.
was never. I've spoken to John. He was never voting you out. I understand when he moved to Melbourne, you let him sleep on your couch. Like, you know, he was looking for a house and you were letting him live with you. There is no way on a personal level he was ever voting you out. And I think you
Yeah.
got lucky. Sometimes you get lucky in these things where you were never confronted with the obligation to vote him out because you're on different tribes, and then he got completely advantaged getting out of the game. Like, Toby, there was literally like 10 people at this tribal and 8 of them were immune.
Yeah, but I think I do think this is why I prefer games where most people don't know each other. I think it's more, because I think it does get messy, especially this community. Like everybody, like you said, Toby, you're playing against your brother, and I mean, sibling rivalry is a bit different, but there's still, you know, that little bit of like, oh, I don't know if you and Alicia, you know, are very good friends, and then you're like really, really betray her and hurt her. I think,
Yeah.
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 So when I play for $1 million as well, I think I would rather keep my friendships than win, you know, one of these games. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's
Yeah.
easy for you to say. You guys have both won before. No, it's another
Well,
week's
yeah.
just greedy.
I mean, I did beat the person that I live with now. So I think people can forgive, you know, and forget.
Well, Keegan has just commented that Mitch trusted him in Backyard Season 2 after he blindsided him in this game, but maybe he shouldn't have. We'll get to that when we cover Backyard Season 2 in the future. You know, Keegan's villainous turn, as I've talked about it a little bit. Okay, and there was some great footage on, you know, the footage we have of Rosemary going on to you about what a big threat Mitch was and how they blindsided him and how he was a big target and how that was her move. And you're sort of just nodding along, going like, you're just digging your own grave here. Like, why are you going on about your great big move to me?
Yep. Yep. No, it was great. She was trying to convince me that she would be happy to play the game and like make big moves with me if I took her into my alliance and stuff. And I was just like, yep. And that's exactly what I don't need at this point in the game. Just before a merge coming up,
Yeah.
I'm just happy to take that sort of threat out of the game. Yeah.
Yeah. Good move, I think.
I think so. And look, and thankfully, from, you know, of this first 5 that go out, and it's always hard to be pre-merge and not get to be part of the jury. But, you know, Mitch has played again and Rosemary's played again. So a few of them have had an opportunity to be in another game, which is fantastic. You hit the merge and you've got strong numbers here. It's an 11-person merge, and you guys have basically 7 from your OG tribe. And there's 4 from the other tribe, which is Ian, Keegan, Nicole, and Alicia. And of course, you know Alicia and have been working with her, speaking to her obviously on your merged tribe for a short period. Plus, you know Keegan. You're in a fantastic position here in terms of people you have relationships with by the pre-game or during the game.
So just to step in there, Alicia was an interesting one because whilst we knew each other outside of the game, she also knows that I play, I guess, not Survivor games, but just any sort of strategy game very shadily and cagely. So she was actually a bit like sus of me from the very start. I found it really, really hard to work with her and get her trust. Like I get it towards the end of the game, but I think it was like final 6 before I actually had her working on my side. She was on a completely different side before then. And I couldn't tell where she was voting the whole time. She was like really distrustful of me the whole. Yeah. But yeah, I was in a good position though, like with strong numbers when we hit merge for sure.
And not just numbers, Kevin wins the immunity necklace and just puts it on you. What was up with that?
I have no idea. That man, like, he was nuts in the best possible way. He had no fear. He just bossed everything. He was like, this is how we do it. This is what's happening. And he made calls and he didn't hide anything. He took Charlotte and me to the the reward from the challenge, and I was like, that's the worst possible move you can do, because not only
That's
does it
the
show who your
alliance.
top 3 is, it also takes us away from camp where we've hit merge and everyone else could just like make a move to get rid of us. That's why I was worried about going back in there. I thought this would be where my name will come up as the first name after merge, because I'm not there to control what's happening in camp. So that's why I said to him, I'm really nervous about going back there. And I think he must have just thought, I'm not nervous. I'll give you my necklace and keep you safe.
I think honestly, I can't fault him too much, because when you're playing a 12-hour game, honestly, there's barely enough time to think, let alone like switch the votes. So I think the people, and that's what I learned to play, like the people who play really fast and loose, people struggle to catch up to what you're doing. So I think, eventually Kevin did go out, but I think, it didn't affect you or Charlotte too much. And I think most people are too scared in this really quick game. So I think if you're like the one who's like being forceful and pushing and, being a bit of a lunatic, I think, it can work. I think in LRGs, I think that strategy, like playing like, say, like someone like Tony from Survivor, like it can work because people don't have enough time to think, oh, that's actually a really terrible idea.
Yeah, for sure. And like you played in like games over like 2 weekends, didn't you? Which is a bit longer
Yeah.
even.
Ours were 3 days.
I wish. No.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and even then, I thought like people are still scared, and the quicker you play, I think
the less people.
I love Kevin's main character energy in that episode to win the reward, take the 2 people he shouldn't, give you immunity. You go into the vote saying you think there was a last minute scramble and you don't know how it was going to go, but nonetheless, Carolee was voted out. Who did the other group vote for? Did they all vote for Kevin?
No, they voted all over the place. A couple voted for Kevin.
Ian included. Ian said he was going to vote for you, but he was annoyed that Kevin had given you the necklace, so he just voted for Kevin.
He couldn't vote for Toby anymore.
I know that's almost that saved the perfect game. I know it's not a perfect game because he was 1 vote short, but in terms of not getting any votes at all the entire game, Kevin giving you that necklace saved it. And if you had a vote there, I wouldn't even be calling it a near perfect game because, vote. So the near perfect game exists only because of Kevin's wonderful move here.
Bold moves, yeah. And Kevin got 2 votes from Nicole and Ian. Kath voted for Keegan. He got a random vote.
Interesting.
Nathaniel, Alicia, and Carolee, who were that minority 3 alliance originally. Well, Kath joined into that minority alliance. I guess that's where she started working with Nathaniel. They all voted for Charlotte. And then you had the majority, us 4, which was myself, Kyle, Kevin, and Charlotte. And then Keegan joined as well to vote Carolee.
Okay, so it was a 5-4-2?
5-3-2-1.
Wow.
Yeah, so 5 votes Carolee, 3 votes Charlotte, 2 votes Kevin, and 1 vote Keegan. Which is why I said it was a scramble, because I basically went in and promised Keegan that we'd take out one of our tribe members,
which you
not
did.
One of his, because we were obviously the majority. So I was like, nah, we'll get rid of one of ours. And then I started promising that Kyle was going to go very soon. So that was my big promise to make sure that I had some other people working with me, like Keegan, to then start helping, get through a couple of these initial after merge votes.
I think this vote really shows this, like what I'm talking about. This really quick, this chaotic board. Where you have 11 players, but all you need is 5 to make it happen. Like everyone's so split, it's so chaotic. I remember like I was at a final 8, and we voted successfully, pulled off a vote with 3 of us, and it's because so many people splintered that sometimes you just need to be the most cohesive group. And I think you guys did that really well all the way to the end, until you then decide. Like, I think that's the way I like to play. Have a really, like cohesive group, but know who you can and can't beat, and then cut them at the end, like you did with Charlotte, and take the money, go home. Yeah.
I really love this move here to bring in Keegan by committing to voting out someone from your tribe who was Carolee, who stacked votes on back at the Cats vote, the Lauren vote. Like, this is not someone who's ever going to be loyal to you guys. Like, you'd voted for her in the pre-merge, and she, Kyle said that she was a swing vote and had like jumped ship. Whether she had or not, maybe not so much, but that's how you perceived her. Like, you gave away nothing to secure Keegan's vote here.
Yep. And he was struggling too because he had Ian in his like small group of people left, and Ian was a loose cannon with where he
Impossible
voted.
to work with.
Like, he was so hard to work with. He'd tell you one thing, and the next minute he would change. Like, he wanted to work with me and Charlotte, and the next vote he was voting Charlotte out again. Like, it was impossible. So I think Keegan was
count on his vote. Like, you couldn't count him saying, "I'm doing this," and then actually do it.
Yep, 100%. No, yeah.
So then there was just a comment and in the commentary of the episode wrap up that at this point Keegan was appearing as a threat to your alliance, and maybe people were thinking about voting him out, but then he won that planking challenge over Kyle, which I'm sure was his proudest moment of the day. And then apparently a plan emerged to take out Kyle or Charlotte, but it just fell apart and Nicole ended up just going. Do you recall what sort of happened there?
Yeah, it was a messy one because at that point Kevin was hell-bent on getting rid of Keegan. That was his next move. He's like, he'll go on an immunity streak here and he'll win. And then he did go and win that immunity. So we're like, plan B. So I wanted to get rid of Kyle at this point. At this point, I thought that Kyle was starting to work too heavily with like Alicia and other people on the outside of our core 4 alliance, but I couldn't get enough numbers on it to make it work. So I was trying to convince Keegan that we were going Kyle. We got to get rid of Kyle. And then Kevin was like, no, it's Nicole. And suddenly like everyone in camp was just like, right, it's Nicole. So we started trying to get all our numbers onto Nicole, which was obviously our core 4 again. We're happy to vote for that. And then I had to pull, I'm just looking at my voting chart here to make sure, because this was a
Can I ask, what are you looking at? You played this 5 years ago. Have you done this from memory? Did you have notes? What have you got here?
Someone, I think it was Rosemary, did eventually put up like a voting chart based on all the confessionals, because some of us were so confused after the game of like, how did that even work? Who voted for who? So somewhere there was a voting chart, and I found it the other day, which I haven't looked at for 5 years.
Yeah, excellent.
Yeah. So that's how I know that. So the 5 votes we ended up getting for Nicole was myself, and then I convinced Nathaniel to vote for her as well, which was a big move because he was trying to get Charlotte out at that point. But whenever I needed a number, I could convince him enough to make a play if I had another play in the background. So I was like, if you get Nicole now, then we get Kyle later. So it was sort of a trade-off situation. Sorry, myself
Very
and him.
smart, yeah.
Hey.
Yeah, it's smart. Like, you can't dictate every vote, and you need to know when to concede and then when to,
Yeah. And then Charlotte also voted Nicole along with Kyle and Kevin. So they were my 5 that I needed to do it. But it meant that out of 10 players, I needed to split the votes because I knew that Charlotte was attracting a lot of heavy attention from the other side. So that was where I made that promise to Keegan as well, I think it was, of the Kyle move coming next. I was like, if you work with me on this one, same promise I made to Nathaniel, we'll get rid of Kyle next. Like, we'll start chopping out of my alliance and we'll just take him down one by one. So he said, well, I can't vote for Nicole. This was Keegan. Because she and I were in an alliance back before we merged. He's like, we're not working together now, but I just can't put a vote on her name. So I'll just chuck a vote on Kyle now, just a random vote, which ended up being crucial because somehow the other 4 players all got together and managed to put the same votes on Charlotte. So if Keegan had voted Charlotte, we would have ended up on a tied vote of 5-all. Instead, it meant that Nicole went home because she was 5-4 to 1. So Keegan's random vote paid off to make sure that Nicole went home that that time, which was really weird because we weren't expecting everybody else to actually align. Like they hadn't been aligning the whole game. And then all of a sudden it was like Charlotte just was this big target all of a sudden, and everyone was starting to be scared of her. And we were like, oh, okay, now this means that she's going to continue to be targeted from this point on.
And that includes, they got Ian on board and from the follow through as well.
Yep.
We just had a comment from Nick Rance of Survivor Season 2 fame, who has said, Toby, my man, winner of Season 1 and winner of Best Song I Heard in COVID Times. Are you a songwriter, Toby?
Not really, but I do make like parody songs. Just I made a random one during COVID time, so there must be a video somewhere floating around that you must have seen.
It cheered Nick up in COVID lockdown.
Good to hear, Nick. So good to hear.
You wanted to take out now. You told Nathaniel next vote we're doing Kyle. I think that was probably true. You wanted Kyle gone. Then Survivor trivia challenge. Did you go fuck? Kyle's going to win this as soon as you knew what it was? I think there's enough other super fans that could have beat him.
Yeah, look. It was so embarrassing. It went for 2 questions. I think three of us got the first question right out of these 9 of us left. Were there? I think it was down to 9 at that point.
Yes.
So like correct. 3 of us got the first question correct. Everyone else got it wrong. So then it was Kyle, Keegan, and myself, and both Keegan and I got the second question wrong, and Kyle got it right. So he won in the shortest trivia you've ever seen.
Do you recall
so embarrassing.
So
I have no idea. I cannot remember what they were. You'd have to see if Liz has a video somewhere like of what it was. It was like, it was
Kyle
terrible.
wins, and obviously you've just got to feed back into the core 4 here. And is it Kevin pushing for Keegan here? He's got to go.
Yeah. And at that stage, pretty much anybody else, I think, after the planking challenge, even some of like, I think Ian and some of his group were also like, yeah, Keegan's too strong at this point. Like,
he's gonna Keegan needs to find a way to like break his leg or something next time he plays, because I feel like this is like a recurring theme with Keegan and the challenges.
Yeah. He can't not go hard.
What season number was Micronesia? It's 16. Did you not know that?
To be fair, I've only seen Australian Survivor at this point when this happened. So I only found out about the show like less than 12 months ago.
That's tough. You can fact check me on that if you want. It's 16. So yeah, it's and look, you're right, Mara, and that's why I personally, of all Keegan's games, love Yards Apart, because he plays more villainous, and what keeps him around longer is people offset he's good at challenges with but is anyone going to vote for him? Like, maybe, I don't know, he's being a bit of a jerk. Like, there's that sort of like element of like, if you're just a heroic guy who's like really good at challenges, then everyone's going to vote you out. Like, you got to have something bringing down your game. And as you say, maybe he should have like a Tyson Apostle break his leg or hurt his elbow and be in a sling or something.
Yeah, he needs to rock up in a wheelchair or something. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good strat.
So the next vote is what, down to 8, and is this a double vote?
We need all the information on. This is the double vote. That sounds like it was insanely chaotic at the tribal once Liz announced the twist. Is that correct?
That is 100% correct, and it came at such a bad time because we finally got together to get rid of Kevin, which was going to be the biggest blindside of the whole thing.
So who'd come together for that?
Yeah. So at this point, after this one, Keegan's gone home. We've gone back to camp, and Kevin is gunning for Nathaniel as the next biggest threat, challenge-wise, which is a big problem for me because I'm always like, well, he can't take Nathaniel out. Keegan's like, I'd still win challenges.
Keegan says he'll still win challenges with a broken leg. It's probably true. Sorry, Toby.
Yep. So Kevin's targeting my secret alliance, which no one knows about. Big problem for me. So I make a wild play that to Kevin himself that Kyle is probably our biggest threat. And I'm like, I know he's part of our Core 4 Alliance, but he's also starting to play the other side, as in he's now voting with them at times. Like he's off talking to them. And if we don't get rid of him, he was probably going to get rid of one of us within the next couple of votes. So I sort of make a Hail Mary, look, let's leave Nathaniel for one vote. Let's use him as a number to get rid of Kyle. And the thoughts was behind that there's 8 of us. So if we play myself, Kevin, Charlotte, and Nathaniel all voting for Kyle, and we convince Kyle that the vote is still going to Nathaniel, then it really doesn't matter what the other 3 people do. So as long as they don't all vote Nathaniel, we have Kyle going home.
Yeah.
So it was, we were fairly confident going into that. We were like, ideally we'd have one more number, but that was where Nathaniel's job was to convince some of the other people, like the Alicias or the Ians or the Kaths, who he was playing with, to not vote for him. As long as he convinced someone in that group not to vote for him, we were fine. So I was like fairly comfortable going into that tribal. And then as we were walking in, I was talking to Alicia at that time, who still, we hadn't been working together for the whole game. And I was sort of trying to find out, so where are you voting? And I suggested that maybe she vote for Ian to try and put a name who I didn't think she was working with, someone who was a bit of an outsider. And also just as that extra block of like, if she votes for Ian, we've definitely got enough numbers. So like, you can't have a 4-4 tie. Problem was that we got into tribal, and that's where Liz announces the big old, it's a double elimination. The 2 highest votes go home. And it was bedlam. Everyone was not like, it was hushed whispers behind hands to every single person, trying to talk to people across the group to sort of say, who are you voting for? Who are you? Because it wasn't a double. You didn't get to vote twice.
Yeah.
It was just the votes get counted and the 2 highest go home. So all of a sudden our plan to get rid of Kyle is like, that's great, but someone else of our group is definitely going home there.
And Charlotte's immune. So
Charlotte had the necklace, so that was lucky for her. She was gone if she 100% she was going to get every vote if she didn't win that necklace.
Yeah.
Which was my dilemma though, because I was like, well, I'm the most obvious option. It's either Kevin or me. And I felt like I was running the show. So I was like, I know he's bossing it and looking like he's not scared. But in my mind, I was like, oh no, I've just pulled off this big move to try and get rid of Kyle. And if that comes out as we're all trying to like juggle our votes, I'm in big trouble. What I didn't know is that Nathaniel had already sort of pulled together Alicia, Kath, and Ian, and he had them targeting Kevin. So I was unaware of that because he and I hadn't talked.
And
but this is where your like side alliance with Nathaniel like really comes like to show like the benefits of that, because it's
100%.
Like you obviously are orchestrating a plan over here, but he has your back with what the minority is doing, and so I think just
like we're both working on plans to save each other, and I didn't even realize he had that plan in play. Like that's how,
and that's fascinating. It really explains a lot of these votes, because Nathaniel said he voted for Kyle. He's obviously worried about getting votes. He said he's dead if it doesn't work out. And Charlotte voted for Kyle, which was the plan. She stuck to the plan. Whereas Kyle voted for Kevin. I guess what
he panicked.
Kath voted for Kevin, which is presumably from what Nathaniel had arranged. But why did Kyle vote for Kevin from your understanding?
So my understanding this is all from sort of a little bit of guesswork and a little bit of, I sort of talked to people but not got the full story.
Yeah.
Kyle and Alicia were working together more closely than most of us knew. So when Nathaniel convinced Alicia to vote for Kevin, that meant that Alicia convinced Kyle to vote for Kevin as well, because he thought that votes might be coming for him for some reason. So he started to get worried, a bit paranoid. And so he changed his vote off Nathaniel, which ended up not sending Nathaniel home, because Kevin changed his vote off Kyle and voted for Nathaniel again because he panicked. And I was like, the one thing I couldn't have happen was any of my other 3 changed their votes. I was like, just stick with the same votes. because I chose to vote for Ian,
Yes.
knowing that I'd thrown Ian's name out to Alicia just before we got to tribal. So in my head, I was like, if Alicia votes Ian and I vote Ian, we have a 3 on Kyle from Nathaniel, Kevin, and Kyle. And Charlotte, sorry, Nathaniel, Kevin, and Charlotte. They do a 3. Then Alicia and I'd put individuals on Ian, so he has 2. And then I was like, that leaves 3 people. So as long as they don't all vote for the same person, which presumably I thought Kyle was going to vote Nathaniel, that meant that only Ian and Kath's vote would either tie if they went for myself or Kevin. So I was aiming to get a 3-2-2-1. Only with how everyone changed their votes as well.
It's such a hard thing to do because it just, when the numbers are that tight, it just takes one person to switch. So
everybody goes into into safety mode to try and like save themselves, which is exactly what I was doing too. I was like, if I get 2 votes, I need to find 2 other votes to put on someone else.
Yeah. Well, I think you did really good to like survive that, because I was I'm not sure, for me, I'm not sure how fair it is to have 1 vote and 2 people going, because I think in Survivor majority rules, and this kind of for me breaks what the game is. But I do think now that you talk me through the strategy of it, I think it shows like one way that you can really like counteract this twist, which is really hard to navigate.
It's really interesting, and the way you were navigating it is amazing given the very short amount of time. I think the twist probably works better if people are actually told about it before tribal, so they can try and make a plan. And of course, this is sort of very similar to Josh Peterson's infamous double earn that he wants to bring in to a season, where you would do something like this, but there's 2 earns and you have 2 votes. He's tried it out in the trial. It's incredibly confusing for the players and the viewers, I feel. So mostly it gets knocked back. But maybe Liz has always been against it because she doesn't think this was a good twist based on comments she put in the chat last week.
Yeah. And to be fair, she did say after the game that they were literally running out of time. Like I think they still had 8 people left. They had to get rid of 2 people at least that time. Otherwise, they were not going to finish before it was like pitch black. Like, we finished in dark anyway.
I get it. I get why they did it. And they did it on the whim. She said, I think someone like Mitch or someone suggested it. I think she said in the chat, and they just went with it because they just needed to do something. I get it. And it's really interesting. I love how you thought through it and worked it through. I love the Ian vote. That was really, because you didn't understand that from last week. So that's really, really interesting. And it worked out perfect for you. It couldn't have come out more perfect with Kevin and Kyle gone.
It was amazing because it looked like my alliance just got shattered into smithereens. It looked like I was in a terrible, the core 4 has been destroyed. And I was like, and no one realizes that I was trying to destroy the core 4 originally. I was so happy, but also could not believe how that worked out.
Because you still got Nathaniel, you still got Charlotte as a huge target in front of you. Like, you didn't just lose all your shields. You still got 1 big shield, and you're going to the final 5. So you're going to final 6.
Final six, yeah.
And you've got your Nathaniel thing, you got Charlotte, you got half the votes at least going to a final 6. And someone can be swayed around. You Alicia, obviously, you start building on at this point, and you make sure to secure her. So you got 4. An amazing outcome for you, really. It just couldn't have gone better.
Exactly. Yeah.
And Charlotte being immune was brilliant, because I think that if it's Charlotte and one of the others that go, like if it's you're still there with Kyle or Kevin after the fact, I don't think that's working out as well for you.
Yeah, because Kevin was more calling the shots. Like if he saw something that he wanted, he would say it, and then we all jumped to attention and we did whatever he called. Whereas with Charlotte, she and I would discuss what was the best sort of move, and we'd come to one that we mutually agreed on. So I certainly had more sway in like discussion wise with Charlotte than I did with Kevin. So it worked out perfectly that he went rather than Charlotte at that tribal for sure.
Does Kevin remind you of a certain player from playing with Firemar, except that no one actually listened to him when he told them what to do?
It reminds me a little bit of like, I'm gonna say someone more like Laurel, who is like not really thinking through the ramifications, and it's more just going with gut instinct and like going like a bulldozer.
Yeah.
And then eventually gets caught. But yeah, I think Kevin. I think Kevin would have been a good shield for you. I think he would have been very interchangeable with Charlotte. Like I don't know if he could have beaten you a Final Four, but I think you would have been okay as well with Kevin. I think. I mean, I don't know. I just from what I'm hearing, I think Charlotte was definitely the best choice for you, but I think it wouldn't have been the end of your game if Charlotte went there.
I guess the question is if Kevin would try to take out Toby earlier and not let him get to the end. Is perhaps what I think.
We'll have to ask Kevin then.
Yeah. I guess a big question for you. You just talked about what it really sounds like is Nathaniel was the architect of the survival of everyone that he wanted to keep in at the final 8 at the double vote. Did he really speak to this move at Final Tribal Council? Because it sounds like he did an amazing job at this one. It doesn't sound like it was spoken to too much based on what we saw.
I actually can't remember how much he touched on in his pitch on that point for sure. Yeah, because like his rallying of the troops to get rid of Kevin at that point and keep me in was like a huge move for him in terms of like, otherwise I wasn't there. He could have easily put all the votes on me if he wanted at that point and had me out and Kyle out at the same time. But I guess like he sort of felt maybe he owed me a little bit because I was putting the votes on Kyle instead of him at that point. So we were pretty heavily entrenched in like working for each other at that point. Like I think by the merge, we were pretty much locked and loaded to get to Final 2, basically in our minds. Yeah. We'd sort of tested out the waters beforehand. Like, do we trust this person? How are they playing? And then we were like, yeah, it's all guns blazing. It's like you and me. And you're just going to have to believe me if it's going to look bad at times. Like I'm going to just ignore you, or I'm going to be like sucking up to all these other people and not talking to you. But you got to trust me that I'm getting you to that Final 2 as well. Like that sort of thing. So we had that trust by that point that I think,
I feel he didn't do a good enough job from what we saw at Final Tribal Council of selling the mutuality of that relationship, of how he kept you alive at this vote. It just came across a bit that you were his side piece. And I think that resulted in that 7-1 vote to some extent. So I think he, based on what we're hearing now, maybe he deserved a vote or two more.
Yeah. I think he definitely could have had a vote or two more because he was also playing the I would say the more dangerous role because he was in the minority for like the majority of that game in that alliance. So I was,
It doesn't really matter how well you're playing if the other players, like you said, like you were worried that people would think Kevin was doing everything. The perception from what I saw was that Nathaniel was kind of coasting he was like riding your coattails a little bit, or that he was like the second in command in your duo. Yes. I think if Nathaniel had done more to differentiate himself from you or identify you as like his direct threat, I think he could have. Yeah, but it's really hard when you run out of options. You have Charlotte there who can also win, and then there's you. Like, you know, maybe taking out Kat here. Maybe that's what he should have.
Well, let's talk about this next vote.
Yeah.
You win immunity. You must be feeling pretty good about that. Do you think you were under threat if you don't have that immunity?
I did in my head, but only because I probably hadn't worked through exactly what happened in that final, like that last tribal. So it was sort of like we're in a new stage. I've lost 2 people that I knew were solid votes with me. So I was like, I have an Ian who I don't know how he's going to vote. Alicia, I've struggled with to know how she's going to vote for this whole time. And Kat, I've had nothing the whole game. Like I just can't read her. So I've got 3 votes that I'm very unsure about. And then I've got 2 players who are sort of targeting each other. Charlotte going for Nathaniel going for Charlotte. So everything's a little shaky at that point. So I was desperate for that immunity just to find my feet again and work out where I was sitting with everybody. And it was a terrible challenge. It was the middle of winter and they had us running down to a lake to fill up water pots, like, you know, those flower pots with holes in the bottom with water and try and fill a bucket. And it was so cold. It was so cold. God.
There's no footage of that one. There's a great win. And then Ian gets up at Tribal Council and plays his immunity idol for Charlotte for some reason.
Yeah. None of us had a clue that he had that idol. None of us. But at that point, because it was final 6, and like I said, I was going to everyone at that point and sort of saying, what's your plan to get to final 3? Where do you see yourself? Because I'm looking for options at this point. And I think because everyone thought I was with Charlotte, but there was also that final, like that second, third spot really of a final 3. So they were like, these guys are a power couple. Now they're leading the game because I'm not hiding behind Kevin and Kyle anymore. And I sort of wanted to get in a little bit on that group, I think. So I started going to everyone like Alicia, and I went to Ian and I said to him, how do you see yourself getting to final 3? Because I'm interested in taking you. And this was one of the first real heart-to-hearts that we'd sort of had for a long time. We tried to work together before and it hadn't come off. And I just made a pitch to him. I said, are you interested in going to final 3? And how do you see yourself getting there? Because I'm like, you're voting left, right, and center, and no one knows, what's happening. So I sort of just floated the idea of final 3 without making any promises. And I said, we're looking for people to work with. Why don't you work with us? Who do you want out of the game? And I think he might have put forward the name Cat, or I might have. I can't remember who did. But Cat sort of came up as the name that everyone wasn't really clicking with. Mm-hmm. And we were like, great, let's try that. And I think he must have just decided, I'll see if I can get some, I don't know, like encourage them to bring me along. Or
he could have used that at final 5, right, and saved himself.
He could have. But he didn't know that he was being targeted at that point. So I think I cozied up to him and suggested he wasn't. Yeah.
He's the sort of person that if he thinks about it and what you just told him, it makes sense to bring him to the end. Like, he's probably not winning.
Yeah. And to me, I was also like, who else does he want to sit there with? Like, out of everyone else, who is he working with enough to get to the end? And I was like, him, me, and Charlotte could make a 3 so that he's got numbers to help vote for things like that. Whereas he was always voting alone.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think he just tried to win a bit of favor by, playing his idol for Charlotte, which was, very random. I think that.
Was she in any danger at all? Presumably not.
No. Well, I don't think so. I think Kevin, no, Nathaniel, I keep getting the names mixed up. Nathaniel was trying to convince people to vote Charlotte out at that point. And I kept telling him, not yet. We need to get rid of some of the loose cannons first. Like, let's keep Charlotte as that shield, because that distracts people from us, and then we get rid of the loose cannons first.
Yeah.
But I think I always say that my worst mistake was not the split vote, like the double a limb, which is what I pitched in the final tribal. My actual worst vote was just not putting a random vote on this one in case someone had an idol. But everyone was so convinced that idols were not in play in this game, because we'd searched for hours for them, that we were like, let's just put all the votes on Kath. So I wasn't in danger, but it meant that Charlotte was in danger. And I only saw that after he played the idol. So I was like, technically that was a really bad move on my behalf to not put at least one vote somewhere else, just in case someone voted in a funny way.
Because he could have played the idol on Kath and made a huge move.
Yeah. Yep. And then, Charlotte leaves the game with 1 vote, and Kath's still in the game. And I'm in trouble. Like, I'd be working with Nathaniel only, and then I'd have to pull Alicia over to my side. Yeah.
But from Alicia's point of view, she's in there. But I could go to the end with Ian and Kath. Like, that's looking good to me.
It's much better than going to the end with me and Nathaniel. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I think that's a great call about what was actually a worse move. I think it's great that you also didn't use that at the Final Tribal Council, because it is actually a bit of a mistake, and you'd rather not highlight something.
Just brush over.
Could have gone wrong.
Yep.
Like,
keep moving.
Really, only for the sake of Ian's probably lack of understanding of the game. Did that work out for you? Someone a bit more savvy might have played it that way. So then, Ian goes out 4-1. Everyone seems pretty comfortable with that. You win the final immunity. How important do you think that was, or did it not really matter?
I don't think it mattered at that point. I was pretty comfortable that I could get to that top 3 regardless. So Charlotte was never going to cut me as far as I was concerned.
Yeah.
We were type 2. Nathaniel,
and she says that to camera. So there's no point. She wouldn't lie to camera. Why would she? So she says, It's me and Toby. Yeah, one of us just had to win. We're going to the end together. So I think
but
correct.
you guys are forgetting that it's not just about getting to the end. I think you have to get to the end with people you can beat, and I'm not sure based on how much she was targeted. I think if Charlotte wins, I think you would have been sweating it a little bit more.
I think if Charlotte wins the immunity, you're going, right?
No, you
not going home, but like as in like if she wins the immunity,
going home a
get herself through.
Winner.
Yeah. Very, very much, very likely. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Alicia goes if Charlotte wins the immunity. Would you say, or Nathaniel?
Yeah, that's an interesting one because I think I need to make sure that Nathaniel's votes don't come into play, because I'd be worried that Charlotte and I are splitting a lot of votes, and then I think Nathaniel's got the third strongest story.
Yeah.
So that would have been an interesting one. Yeah.
That's right. I was actually just thinking about that myself, and I actually think Nathaniel's best outcome was probably to be with you and Charlotte and win on a minority vote, like a 4-2-2 or a 4-3-1 or something, because you guys are such big players here and here, and people will go for this, they go for that, whatever. Here's some votes, and he just needs 2 or 3 people to go, you know what, Nathaniel did all right.
Yeah, exactly. So I was very concerned about that fact, but also like I was planning on pitching a big enough story at the end to like convince people. So I was sort of like, I don't mind who I sit against.
Yeah.
But I know that if I'm sitting against Charlotte, I have to pitch like an amazing pitch to make it through. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, it sounds like Charlotte wasn't such a big fan that maybe she wouldn't have. She probably had never seen a final tribal. She didn't know what to do and not to do. And I think you and Nathaniel, it was very obvious that you guys had seen Survivor and you knew the answer. For me, the giveaway is always what was your biggest move, and the answer is always getting you the person who asked me that question. Because the person who asked what was your biggest move, they're wanting you to say that they were your best move. So when Kyle asked that question, you guys perfect.
That's been the canon since Todd's famous China tribal council, that everything says the greatest tribal council. He's the first person to do it in the right way with Jean Robert, who's like just a horrible person all around. And he's like, why did you vote me out? Why did you train me? He's like, you would have won. You'd have won, Jean Robert. And Jean Robert's like, oh, well, yes, of course I would have won. Thank you, Todd.
Yeah.
I guess, were you at all worried that Alicia had gone to every single tribal council? Did you think that was going to be enough of a story for her to sell?
No, only because she was so new to the game, she'd made some mistakes along the way. So she did at one stage vote for someone with the necklace. And at another stage, she played what she thought was an immunity idol, but it really wasn't as well. So I felt like her game didn't have enough big moves to like save her. Like she'd done well, but only because she wasn't as much of a threat, rather than like she was making strategic moves to not be voted out. So I didn't think it was going to stack up as much against a game with bigger moves. I just,
I think Alicia's path to victory would have been Kath and Ian. I think she should have figured a way to get there in that combination.
But again, she was struggling. Go on.
It's hard your first time, and especially if you don't know Survivor, it's hard.
Yeah, but everyone was just struggling with Ian. Like no one could make a solid alliance with him because he'd then vote for someone completely different on another. What
was his deal? Who is Ian? How did he come to the game?
Ian's related to Charlotte, but I can't remember what the relationship is. Whether it's like,
But he's not Ian Riley, like Liz's father, presumably, or not?
No. Well, I don't think so. Ian. Yeah, that's a different Ian. Yeah.
So look, I must say, we did a deep dive last week. We went through the material we had. We did our best to piece this together, and we had a lot of questions. And notwithstanding the time that's passed, you've done an incredible job of answering them. And we thought you'd played an impressive game just based on the material we had. But frankly, this was an incredible performance from you, Toby, from start to finish. Your strategy, your thinking, your side alliances, the moves you were planning ahead, the way you convinced people to make moves with you. You know, you weren't ordering people around. You had the social capital and the right way with people to get them to go along with it, to have the trust with Nathaniel, for him to have the trust in you, to not really work together. I'm blown away. This is an incredibly well played game. So I'm so glad we've covered this and you're getting the kudos you deserve.
Yeah, it's been good to have a recap because it's been a while since it all happened. Have a little, relive it all. Have a little watch again, catch up with it. It sounds like, I know you'd sell it as a big sort of special game, but like when you're actually playing it, it doesn't seem like that. Like the amount of times I was just in panic in my head, like I don't know if everyone's voting where I want it. It looks great when it all comes out in the end and everyone votes how you wanted them to, but to get people to vote like that, like it just takes a lot of luck, I think, as well. Like you think you control as much as you can, but there's a whole element of luck and
Yeah,
it
plays out.
Don't take it from me. Let's get the other winner we've got here, because I believe, I might be wrong, you didn't get a vote the entire game either. Is that right?
No.
Yes.
That's right. So, that's good.
Yeah.
No,
so what do you tell us what you felt about Toby's game with what we've talked about today and last week in this show?
Yeah, I was really impressed. I do think so if someone asks me which LRG player you most like, now I'm gonna say Toby, because I think you and I have the same philosophy when it comes to Survivor. You have to be the middle. You can't be the worst person, but you can't be the best person all the times. And I like how you said that sometimes some votes you were like happy to take a back seat and sacrifice someone and then take control the next time. And really, yeah, I think you are a great winner. I was very impressed. I do have to say, I have to compliment you on your outfit for the reunion.
Yes, thumbs up. Double thumbs up.
I've never seen a live reunion like that, which I think maybe an LRG, if people could keep their votes secret, that would be really exciting.
How good was it? How good was it?
So cool.
Was not expecting
but like waiting 2 weeks, waiting 2 weeks to find out. I know.
Yeah, I think hard. For other LRGs, you'll be waiting like over a year. So I think that was the only time it could have been done.
It was so good.
My other question is, what did you do with the $100?
I think I put it towards my own Camp Survivor again. So like it went into making props and things for another season. Yeah.
Great. And my last question is something that I guess we ask everybody who ever plays. Like, would you ever play again?
Yeah, I would. I've completely blown my game now, so I'll have to come in with completely different strategy. Maybe I'll be the Kevin.
And then you would have been so secret and under the radar, and now everyone's going to know everything about you.
Yep. So I'll have to be a Kevin now. I'll just come in and I'll tell everyone what to do, and hopefully they'll listen.
Mitch,
definitely play again, though.
Keegan says he spent the money. I guess, was he making the props, or did he just take
it? He was. Yeah.
And Mitch says everyone was very impressed with you from the sidelines. So the players there with the game were impressed.
Yeah.
I just want to say thank you again for coming on this. I know it was probably a little bit random because I'm like, hey, I'm this person. You don't know what I do or this podcast, and you've never heard of me. But would you want to go on and talk about your game for an hour and a half or so? And so thank you so much for coming and doing it. It was really great to get your insights.
Yeah, you're most welcome. It was a lot of fun to come along and have a chat.
And thank you, Ma, for joining me. It's always great to have La Madrina attending with us to give us her insights. She played a dominant game. Toby played a dominant game. It's good for them to compare notes and just give each other like mutual, exchange of pleasantries and positivity.
Yeah. Toby, you better binge my season so you can come on the podcast and ask me about it.
That sounds like a plan.
I might actually do that because my thinking is I think I want to have like the 11 different winners on this podcast, like do the 11 different winners in a way,
Yeah.
So I think I will get Toby for Canberra. And
you start watching.
Lovely. I've got some binging to do.
You got all the binging to do as we go through this show. And that's right. Well, next week, we continue the Melbourne Survivor 1 festivities. It will be the tea party with Annabelle. Everyone knows Annabelle, star of Playing with Fire, season 3, even though she's pre-merge. and she was on the Traders, but like I think playing with Fire 3 is the real superstar in her career. Annabelle of Traders fame, ride or die alliance with Luke Toki. Not many people can say that. Will be doing all the hot tea with Kyle, Keegan, and Kath, the 3Ks. I tried to get Charlotte. I thought her insights would be really great. She wasn't too keen to come on. But I think the three of them are going to be giving a lot of great insight.
What about Kevin? He's okay.
Yeah, I didn't realize how interesting Kevin was when I was putting this together, to be perfectly honest. But I do really like the value. The thing I like about Kath, Keegan, and Kyle is they've all continued to be involved in the community in quite a substantive way by crewing and appearing on other seasons. Obviously, Kyle runs Backyard with Brian, which is very successful. So I think it's good to have the three of them. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And then final episode, we will have the awards. Vote if you haven't voted. Get in there. Put your votes in. Did you vote, Toby?
No, I haven't voted. I can't vote for myself.
Vote. You can vote for yourself to be the MVP of the season if you like.
Okay, I'll go vote now.
And then we'll be revealing all the results of the award, including the all-important ORCA award. The Bromelo medal will be handed out to the most ORCA of the season. I know where my vote went, but like we'll see where it goes when it comes out. And we'll be in that same episode having a chat with Liz and where this whole season came from and her ideas and the backgrounds, and Connick, who is the genius behind the editing. I think did a great job. Ma, what do you think as a professional editor of Connick's work?
Very good. Obviously, used the songs from the show, made it look a lot. It's like the video. Sorry, the season really sounded like Survivor. If that's any. Yeah. So I think very, very well done.
And and it's 32 minutes, but you could actually follow it pretty well. I said last week, it's the best finale I've ever seen for an LRG. If you just think about it like a finale, the recap was great, and I loved the live cut. So it will have Connick as well to talk about his editing prowess. So really exciting. And as I said, if you're prepping for October, we will be looking at Backyard Survivor Season 1. Get binging so we can all count down all the fun of that fantastic season. So thank you again, Toby. Really appreciate you coming on. Thank you, Ma. Thank you, everyone that's watched and commented. And thank you to everyone who listens to this podcast after the fact. We know everyone can't watch it live. So thank you, everyone. And we'll see you next week.
Okay, bye.